Hey everybody, welcome back to The Wicked Root. I'm Danny, that's Marcus, and tonight we're doing the big one.
Yeah, we are. Jeffrey Dahmer.
And look, I want to be straight with people right up front, okay? Because I've seen the shows, I've seen the movies, and I still don't get it. Like, my honest reaction to this man is just, what is wrong with him, you know? Why is he like this?
Good. No, seriously, good. Hold on to that, because that's actually the question, right? Not what did he do? I mean, everybody knows what he did. 17 young men, 78 to 91. What this show's for is, how does a person become that? Like, where does that even start?
Okay, so where does it start? Because in my head, it starts in some dark basement somewhere, some like horror movie childhood.
See, that's the first thing you gotta let go of. And honestly, I kind of want people to feel how uncomfortable this is. There's no horror movie childhood here. Not on record. No abuse, nothing documented. It's a middle-class house in Ohio, man. Dad's a chemist, mom's home. By every outside measure, totally ordinary.
See, no, that's worse. That's actually worse.
Why is it worse?
Because if there's a monster factory, I can point at it. I can say, that's where they're made. And my house isn't that. But ordinary means, what, it can just happen?
That's the fear, right? And honestly, that fear is why people are still pulling this case apart 30 years later. So, let me put one scene on the table, and then we'll go dig for the roots underneath it. Okay, June 1978, Bath, Ohio. Jeffrey Dahmer is 18 years old, and he is completely alone in his family's house. Parents just went through this ugly, ugly divorce. Mom's moved out, took the little brother. Dad's already gone. And as far as anybody can tell, nobody quite realizes there's an 18-year-old just living there by himself.
Wait. Both parents are just gone?
Functionally, yeah, gone. And that summer, he picks up a hitchhiker, 19-year-old kid, Stephen Hicks. They hang out for a few hours, they drink, and then Hicks wants to leave.
And that's it? That's the trigger, the guy wanting to leave?
That's what Dahmer himself says, years later, in the confessions. The first killing happens because the person wanted to leave, and he didn't want him to. Now, here's the thing though. One murder, and then nothing, for 9 years. Which, that almost never happens with serial killers. And that gap is one of the weirdest, most important facts in this entire case.
Okay, so you've got an ordinary house, an abandoned kid, and a guy who kills so someone can't walk out the door. I feel like you just handed me 3 puzzle pieces from 3 different puzzles, man.
They're the same puzzle. Come on, let's go back to the beginning. I'll show you how they connect.
All right, childhood. What do we actually know? And I mean the documented version, not the internet version.
So, born May 1960, Milwaukee. And here's what people get wrong immediately. By every account we have, he starts out as a pretty normal, even happy little kid. The change comes slow. And okay, before we go cause hunting, I gotta set some ground rules, because there's 3 kinds of claims floating around this case. Stuff that's documented, stuff that's somebody's theory, and stuff that's just internet folklore. I'll flag which is which as we go. Deal?
Please, man, because I've heard everything. I've heard his mom's pills did it. I've heard some surgery did it.
Right, so both of those? Both come from one source, his dad. Lionel Dahmer wrote this book in '94, A Father's Story. And Lionel says, look, Joyce, the mom, had a rough pregnancy, took a lot of medication. And he wonders about this hernia surgery Jeff had around age 4, whether something about that changed him. But you gotta understand what those are. Those are a grieving father's guesses. There's no science behind either one. Joyce, she denied there were any warning signs at all. And Dahmer himself, and this is important, he said blaming his parents was, his words, completely off the mark.
Huh. The serial killer defending his parents.
Over and over, yeah. So, okay, what is documented? 3 threads, and they all start early. Thread 1, the kid withdraws. Teachers, classmates, everybody describes this boy who goes quiet somewhere in grade school and just keeps getting quieter, more alone every year. Thread 2, this is the famous one, the dead animals. He collects roadkill, man. He keeps bones. Had this little spot in the woods with animal remains. And hold on, let me kill a myth right here because it actually matters. There is no documented evidence he ever tortured a living animal. None. People add that part themselves because it fits the serial killer starter kit. The real record is weirder than that. He wasn't cruel to living things. He was drawn to dead ones.
What does that even mean, though, psychologically? A 10-year-old collecting bones?
On its own, maybe nothing. That's what makes this so hard, right? Plenty of kids go through a morbid phase. Looking back, the experts read it as the first visible piece of what everything else grows from, this pull toward bodies that can't leave, can't judge you, can't say no. But nobody could have read that at the time. Nobody. Which brings us to thread 3, the drinking. He starts at 14. And I don't mean party drinking. Kids describe him drinking during the school day. One classmate actually asks him about it, and Dahmer basically tells him it's his medicine.
14. He's drinking like that at 14, and the adults just don't see it?
The adults are busy, man. And this is where that ordinary house stops being ordinary. All through the mid-70s, the marriage is coming apart. Loudly. Years of fighting ends in this bitter divorce in 78. Whatever attention exists in that house, it's going into the war, not the kids. And meanwhile, at school, get this, Jeff turns himself into a kind of mascot. He figures out that if he fakes seizures, clowns around, acts out, people laugh. The kids literally had a name for it. They called it doing a Dahmer.
Oh, that's sad. That's genuinely sad, dude. The class clown thing was a bit?
It's a mask, and a documented one. There's a classmate, John Backdorf, who later wrote a whole graphic memoir about it, My Friend Dahmer. And his read, as a guy who was actually there, is a kid disintegrating in plain sight while everybody, adults included, looks away. Now, Backdorf draws a hard line, and I think it's the right line for us too. Sympathy for the boy ends the night of the first murder.
Okay, so the divorce happens, everybody moves out, and we're back at that summer. He's 18, alone in the house, drinking, and Stephen Hicks wants to leave.
And 18 years of threads not together in one evening. Think about it. The withdrawal means nobody's close enough to notice anything. The fixation means the fantasy's been building for years. The alcohol dissolves whatever breaks are left. And the abandonment, the thing the psychologists point out hardest, has just gone from a feeling to a fact. Everyone left. And the first murder in this case is, at face value, a man making it impossible for one more person to leave.
When you lay it out like that, it almost sounds explainable. And that makes me really uncomfortable, honestly.
It should. It should. Explainable is not excusable. Thousands of kids live through way worse and never hurt anybody. That's the check on every neat little story in this field. And it's why those 9 quiet years matter so much. Because after Hicks, he's horrified at himself. He tries, in his way, to outrun it, joins the army, gets discharged in 81, the drinking, ends up at his grandmother's in Wisconsin, the one family member everybody agrees he actually loved. He even goes to church with her, man. For years, the fight is real.
So he knows. He knows something's wrong with him, and he's trying to hold it down.
And you know what? For 9 years, mostly, he does. That's the strange mercy in this story. And it's real. No known victims, 78 to 87. But watch what the holding down looks like from the inside, because this is where you see the machine underneath. He's working nights at a chocolate factory, drinking constantly, gets arrested for exposing himself, then again in 86, gets probation. And by the summer of 86, he's drugging men at bathhouses, not killing, drugging. Because what he wants, and he says this later, almost clinically, is a person who's there, but can't leave and can't say no. You see it? It's the same shape as the bones, same shape as Hicks. The want never changed, Danny. He's just been negotiating the price.
And then November 87, the negotiating stops.
Guy named Stephen Twomey. Hotel room, heavy drinking. And Dahmer claims, right to the end, that he has no memory of the killing. Says he woke up and Twomey was dead. Now, maybe you believe that, maybe you don't. He was never charged because there was nothing beyond his own account. But here's what matters for our question. After Twomey, the fight's over. He stops trying to not be this. 4 victims by early 89. And Okay, I need you to hear how many doors the world held open for him in these exact years. Because this part of the root system, this part isn't him.
What do you mean, doors?
September 88. He gets arrested for drugging and molesting a 13-year-old boy. He's out on bail. And while he is on bail for that, awaiting sentencing, he kills Anthony Sears. Then he stands in front of the judge, right? Convicted sex offender now. And his dad's lawyer argues for treatment. And the sentence comes back, work release. That's a year in jail where they let you out every day to go to work at the chocolate factory. And he gets released 2 months early. He kills 12 more people after that courtroom, man. 12. And through the entire spree, you gotta understand this. He's on probation. He has a probation officer, sees her regularly. He's complaining to her about anxiety, depression. The system is not absent from this story, Danny. The system is in the room the whole time.
See, that's the part that's going to make people angry. Because you can almost forgive the world for missing a quiet 10-year-old. But a convicted offender on probation? That's the guy they're supposed to be watching.
Hold on to that anger. It comes back at the end of this story, and it's wearing a uniform. But first, the trial. Because in 1992, this becomes the most examined mind in America. And by then, his own words are, "I always knew that it was wrong."
So the psychiatrists, what did they actually find? Not the TV version.
So here's what surprises people. At trial, the experts on both sides basically agree on what's underneath. A severe paraphilia, meaning his sexuality had fused, hard, to bodies that were unconscious or dead. Total control or nothing. One of the defense experts, Judith Becker, laid out the details that make it undeniable. He wanted partners who couldn't act, couldn't choose, couldn't go.
So the fight at trial wasn't whether something was deeply wrong with him.
No. Everybody agreed something was deeply wrong. The fight was whether he could control it. Defense says irresistible compulsion, insanity. And the prosecution's forensic psychiatrist, Park Dietz, he points at the planning. And Dietz has this one observation that just ends the argument for a lot of people. Dahmer drank in order to do it.
He had to get drunk to get past his own conscience. And you don't need to disable a conscience you don't have, right?
Jury went 10-2. Sane. Guilty, 15 counts. 15 consecutive life terms. One more later in Ohio.
The drinking to do it thing is going to stay with me, man. That's the freakiest detail so far, and it's not even a gory one.
It's the whole case in one detail. The horror of Dahmer isn't a missing conscience. It's a conscience that loses, over and over, to something stronger.
Okay, so bring it home for me. We got the withdrawal, the bones, the alcohol, the abandonment, the paraphilia. Which one's the root? Why is he like this?
Honest answer? The experts who actually examined him never fully agreed. So I'd rather hand you their 3 competing answers than one tidy fake one, all right? Answer 1 is Dahmer's own. He told Stone Phillips on Dateline, quote, "I just wanted to have the person under my complete control, not having to consider their wishes." And then the sentence that still stops me cold. The killing was a means to an end. That was the least satisfactory part. In his telling, the root is control. The killing wasn't even the point. It was the cost of keeping someone.
Keeping, like a person could be a possession.
Which connects to answer 2, the loneliness theory. Some of the examiners saw all of it as this catastrophic mutation of the need for companionship. I mean, here's a man whose documented life is one long abandonment. And in this reading, the crimes are these grotesque attempts to make someone stay. Even after, he told Mancy Glass, quote, "If I couldn't keep them with me whole, at least I could keep their skeletons."
The bones again, man. It's the 10-year-old's collection all the way down.
All the way down. And answer 3? Answer 3 is the darkest. George Palermo, one of the court's own appointed psychiatrists, he concluded Dahmer was killing what he hated in himself. Self-loathing turned outward at men he was attracted to. So, 3 theories: control, loneliness, self-hatred. And the honest position is the record supports pieces of all 3. The root system had more than one root.
Can I ask, is there anything in his own confession that tells you which one he believed? Like, not the interviews years later, the confession, when it was fresh.
There's one thing, and when you hear it, I think it rearranges all three theories. In the confession, he describes what he was building. He was keeping the skulls and the skeletons for a reason. He was planning an altar, man. A black table, blue lights, incense, a chair facing it. And the detectives ask him, "Who's the altar dedicated to?" And he says, "Myself." Called it a place where he could feel at home. A place to, quote, draw a sense of power. And then he says, if you'd come 6 months later, that's what you would have found.
A shrine to himself, built out of people who couldn't leave.
So now run the theories again, right? Is that loneliness? Partly. I mean, a place where I could feel at home might be the loneliest sentence anyone's ever said. Is it control? Obviously. But draw a sense of power. That's a man who feels he has none, building the only throne he can imagine. Whatever the root was, by the end it had flowered into something that wasn't even about the victims anymore. They'd become construction material for a self he couldn't otherwise feel.
Okay, can I ask the uncomfortable one? The one everybody argues about? Born or built? Was this always in him? Or did that house make it?
The most defensible answer the evidence allows. A vulnerability that was probably born, found conditions that let it grow. The fixation shows up too early, too specifically to be pure environment. But between that seed and 17 dead men stands every condition we just walked through. The isolation nobody interrupted, the alcohol nobody stopped, the abandonment nobody noticed, the courtroom that opened the door. And one more. I told you the anger comes back wearing a uniform. May 26, 1991. A 14-year-old boy named Konorak Synthesomphone gets out of that apartment while Dahmer's out buying beer. He's been drugged. He's hurt. He is naked on a Milwaukee street. And two 18-year-old women, Sandra Smith, Nicole Childress, they find him and they call 911. Cops show up and Dahmer just walks up, tells them the boy's his adult boyfriend who had too much to drink.
And they believe him? Over the women standing right there.
The women are black. The boy is Laotian. And Dahmer is this calm, soft-spoken white guy, holding photographs. The witnesses keep insisting. He's a child. He's hurt. The record has one of the officers telling them to shut up. And you should know one more name here. Glenda Cleveland, Sandra's mom, lived next door. She calls that night. She keeps calling for days, man. She calls the FBI. When Konorak's picture runs in a missing persons story, she calls again. Nobody comes. The officers walk that boy back into apartment 213, where, we now know, there is already a body in the bedroom. They log it as a domestic dispute, and they leave. On the dispatch tape afterward, they're laughing about it. Konorak is dead within the hour. And look, here's the thing you have to sit with. I can't tell you what was in Dahmer's heart about race. He denied it, his victims crossed every line, the record honestly can't settle it. But what the record settles completely is whose word counted that night, and whose didn't. The institutional failure has a color to it, even if you never settle the question of the man.
So the root isn't even growing in the dark anymore. People are pointing flashlights at it and getting told to shut up.
For 2 more months. And those officers? Fired, then reinstated, with back pay. One of them later gets elected president of the police union. So, some roots grow because they're watered. Some grow because everyone who could have pulled them chose not to look. And some grow because the people who did look weren't believed.
So when someone asks, what's wrong with him? The real answer is a list. And some of the list isn't even him.
The disorder was his. The opportunities were supplied. And then it ends the way it was always going to end, not with detective work. July 22nd, 1991, a man named Tracy Edwards, 32, lured up with an offer of $100 to pose for photos. And he spends hours in that apartment, knife at his chest, one handcuff locked on his wrist. And the man keeps his head. He talks, he waits, he watches. And when his moment comes, he punches Dahmer, and he runs, flags down 2 patrol officers with the cuff still hanging off his arm. So the officers go up to check the story. One of them opens a drawer, finds the Polaroids. His exact words are in the record. These are for real. Dahmer barely resists, and as they take him down, he says something the officers report later, quiet, almost to himself.
Even at the end, he's agreeing with the question, man. Something is wrong with me.
13 years after Stephen Hicks. One person the root couldn't hold, and the whole thing came out of the ground in a single night.
And Dahmer himself. 3 years later, he's killed in prison, right?
November 94. Another inmate. He'd been baptized 6 months earlier, and, make of that what you will. But the record shows the same man right to the end, telling interviewers he always knew it was wrong, and still not able to fully say why he was like this. He went looking for his own root in every one of those interviews, Danny. I don't think he ever found it either.
Man, okay, last thing, because I keep coming back to that ordinary house. If there's no monster factory, what do we actually watch for? Like, what's the takeaway that isn't just fear?
Watch for the quiet ones being left. That's it. Every hinge in this whole story is an unwatched moment. The withdrawal nobody interrupted at 10. The drinking nobody questioned at 14. The empty house nobody checked at 18. The boy on the street nobody believed at the end. None of those moments made him, but every one of them let him keep growing in the dark. Roots don't need permission, man. They just need nobody looking.
The Wicked Root of Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm Danny. That's Marcus.
Good night, everybody.